Welcome. We're the University Career Center, and we're here to talk about the Internship and Career Search Strategies presentation today. We hope you find this information very helpful as you start to navigate your career path and start looking for internships and other type positions on your career path future. What you will learn today, your learning objectives will be you will learn the importance of building your career brand and selling it in your job search. You will learn job search strategies and the critical piece networking skills play in that. You will learn about helpful technology that can elevate your networking skills, which in turn positively impact your job search. We have career competencies, and they're ones that our office follow very seriously, due to the fact that career competencies showcase an individual's knowledge and behavior that lead them to be successful in their career. The National Association of Colleges and Employers have defined 8 competencies that are the top areas that employers across all industries highly value. Those competencies are critical thinking, communication, teamwork, technology, leadership, professionalism, career and self-development, and equity and inclusion. The notion is if you were to come to an organization with these competencies well developed, you would be an extremely viable, extra added value to someone's organization. So that is why we spend in our office time pushing and talking about career competencies and showing those in our presentations. So today's focus in the content that we'll be talking about will be focused on the career and self-development and communication competencies. When you think about your career path and going on this job search journey, the first thing that has to be in place and perfectly designed, and that is your resume. The resume is basically your brand that you can put, for lack of a better word, on paper to send to employers and connections to show what your career development path has been. It can show past experience, education, current experience, volunteership, campus involvement, leadership, etc. It really tells a story about you. And in the process of looking for jobs, it's basically the segue for you to hand your story over to companies when you apply for positions. And those that receive those resumes are recruiters and hiring managers. So that becomes the question of how long do you think employers typically spend reviewing resumes? 45 to 60 seconds, 1 to 2 minutes, 10 to 20 seconds, or as long as they need to review the content. What is your answer? The actual answer is 10 to 20 seconds, which probably seems like a very brief amount of time. The reason for this is most of the time when companies advertise positions or a position, they get a lot of applicants. And so for recruiters and hiring managers to have the time to go through all those applicants, they learn and know quickly they have to more or less spot check those resumes and really begin to build a story from that resume quickly so they can move on and come up with maybe their top 5 or 10 applicants. So that is why they're so brief in looking at them, because there's so many to look at and so much to consider. And they just want the very best as their final candidates to consider. So let's talk about quick resume tips so you can be that top candidate. On the resume, one of the formatting rules would be to do a 10 to 12 point font size situation. What I mean by that is this. Your headers could be maybe an 11 point font size, and then your text that you actually write in could be about a 10, and your name could be a 12. But actually your name should be the largest thing on your resume, so you could make it a 14 in that case. But stay within the 10 to 12 point font range for headers and content. You also can use a 0.5 margin to space out the information, to continue to try to aspire to keep your information to one page, and to also reduce white space. Mentioned earlier, shooting for having a one page is ideal. However, if you're a very experienced person who has returned to school, or you just happen to have a lot of experience that you need to sell, then there can be exceptions. The information in each section will appear in reverse chronological order. That basically means from most recent working to past. It is so important that your resume be formatted properly because consistency is so crucial. When a recruiter or hiring manager can review your resume and understand the content and the timeline in a very quick fashion, you're doing the job for them, which is wonderful. In your bullet points where you're talking about your experience or other type pieces where you need to describe what you've done in a role, make sure at the beginning of the bullet point to use an action verb or a power verb. You don't use I or my or complete sentences. Very strong rule of thumb here is proofread, proofread, proofread. Take a look at it yourself, have a friend look at it, a trusted mentor, other professionals in the field, professors, possibly the Career Center too. We'd love to help you out with proofreading and making sure that resume is ready to go. Preparing for the job search. So you've created your resume, which is part of your career brand. So now you have to start, you have that in place. So now you have to start looking for opportunities. One of the most critical to quality items is to know yourself. In order to sell what you have to offer, you have to know who you are and what you offer. So you have to ask yourself, what are you looking for? What are your career goals? And what do you like to do? Knowing what you don't want, by the way, is just as important. Know the market you're considering. You can find ways to get that information from job shadowing, where you might go for a morning and spend some time with an employer just to see them in action, to get trained on their basic functioning. Career conversations that can come through networking over LinkedIn if you use that system, or events that the Career Center holds, or just ones with people that you know would be in the industry of interest. Be able to market yourself. It's really neat, because if you know yourself and you know the market, it does make it easier to market your holistic self as a career professional. You can easily learn to cultivate your brand through that process. And in thinking of it, if you need to add some extra elements, think about what your personal strengths are, not only what you have listed on the resume, but what makes you unique and magical. What do you, the individualized you, have to offer? And also, what are your values? You do want to make sure your values align with the organizations you're considering. People not only have to like their jobs, but they have to like their work environment, the managerial structure, their professional development offerings, all of those extras that make a job worthwhile. So do consider and make sure you understand your values. And most importantly, what is the strategy or the style of how you want to sell yourself? Probably the most critical item there is that you sell yourself in an authentic way. So figure out what that would look like. The power of networking. We'll say this again and again and again. When you can get out and networking, you're going to discover and probably hear this rule of thumb that 80% of jobs are found through that process. So it's critical and most important that you understand that just applying to random websites and hoping that you'll get a callback isn't a very fruitful job searching / networking strategy. So what you'll really need to do is start focusing on, how do I build connections with human beings versus relying on websites? So we'll talk about that. But the good part of this is that when you're thinking about how you want to reach and learn and understand an industry, it will come through conversation versus just research and just applying to websites. So when you begin to network, make sure you have a clear goal. What is it that you want? The other piece is to tell everyone around you that you're connected with already about your job search. In doing so, be sincere. I know a lot of people say it feels weird and vulnerable to let people know that I'm looking for a job. But when you're sincere about it, it's absolutely well received. And also, if you can articulate how you offer value, that also makes that conversation pretty low key. It's basically saying, what can you offer this new contact? So let's say you tell a friend that you're looking and they refer you to somebody. So when you go into that conversation with that referral, you have to ask yourself, what do I have to offer in this conversation, potentially to whatever organization they may be affiliated with or opportunity. Of course, follow-up and establishing relationships are always something that we've got to consider. So, meeting someone and having a conversation and then just completely never talking to them again might not be the most polished way to do networking. It's always good to keep those relationships, as we call them, warm, meaning that you do some check-ins once in a while, especially with the people you really had a strong connection with in those industries that you're interested in. So certainly making sure you're thanking them for their time and also maybe doing some check-ins just to keep that relationship alive. So when we're thinking about networking and job search strategies, a really nice thing that the Career Center offers you is our system called Hire Niner. It is a technology that does a lot of really cool things. On one side of it, it helps schedule coaching appointments. So if you wanted to meet with your dedicated career coach, you can use Hire Niner to do so. On the other end of that technology, we have listed bunches of full-time jobs, on and off campus employment, internships, on-campus interviewing, and even events. All of these are related to you interfacing with potential employers. So this system is something that you definitely want to use while you're going to school at UNCC because it's at your disposal. It's very user-friendly, which we'll talk about in a moment. But most importantly, you can quickly get connected with employers and other industries and people who you really need to network with and understand what's out there. So we're going to do a quick demo. Going to escape out of here real quick. And we're going to go over to our website. So our website is career.charlotte.edu. When you scroll to the middle of the page, you're going to see a button for Hire Niner. That is where you can log in with your NinerNet credentials. I'm going to take you to where I am already logged in as a student. So when you log in, you'll land on this home page. And this is the student view. And what you guys can use to look for opportunities and also look at events is right here on this page. You have the Jobs tab, the Events tab, as well as some additional pieces that I can talk to you about. So let's talk about jobs. If you wanted to do some searches and filters, this is a great way to do so. I always recommend to students that they start out broad in their search and then dive down with some of these filters. So we'll do a keyword search for finance roles. And you can see quickly that leaving it quite wide open, there's different internship opportunities. There's a full-time opportunity. There's a full-time remote opportunity. So you can see a lot of really cool pieces there that maybe you otherwise wouldn't have known about if you're looking for internships or full-time positions in the finance realm. You also could search by location. And if you wanted to do position type, it scales that number down a little more down to, oh, I'm looking at just internships in the relative Charlotte metro area. So I will open one of the positions, and you can look at and see that we have a robust job description. Again, reiterating the position type, the location, and of course the application deadline. In this box here where it says save and apply, you could save this position for later to look at later. If you had to go to class, couldn't do it at that moment. And you also can apply through our system to the opportunity. Going back to jobs, one other thing I wanted to show you is in the position type button, there are what's called on-campus employment opportunities. On campus clearly means that it's at UNC Charlotte or affiliated with us. And basically, what that looks like are student temp wage, that's STW. Those are like just part-time positions on campus. Federal work study is for those who are on financial aid, who would be able to apply for these opportunities only, meaning that those are the only applicants that could apply to that role. And then you might also see what we call UPIP, which is the University Professional Internship Program. Those are on-campus internships. And we also offer here in the job section under on-campus employment, graduate assistantships, of course, for those who are getting their master's degree. Going over to events, there are so many events that the Career Center offers and the whole campus offers throughout the school year. So I'm just going to tap on type. Actually, I'm going to press on career fairs and hit apply. And you can see the upcoming career fairs that we are hosting through the Career Center. One of our larger ones is our Fall Career and Internship Fair. And you can see here the information about what to expect, when, where, the employers attending, the location, certainly, and the address. So when it comes down to it, if you want to be searching for events that get you in front of employers, the events tab would be very fruitful. You also can look up employers to see who engages UNC Charlotte. What you're going to find is that there's a basic summary of who they are. If they have positions posted with us currently, it will reflect here. And also if they planned any upcoming events with us, that would be listed there. So you can go through if you have some companies you're interested in and run a search. There's career resources here. And then as mentioned earlier, the other side of this system is one where you can schedule appointments with your career coach. If I had scheduled appointments with my career coach, if I were a student, you would see requested appointments and approved appointments here. So this, I hope, has been very helpful in you understanding Hire a Niner as a search mechanism to find job opportunities, to connect with employers, and also just the small other side of it, making appointments. We're going to go back to the slides. So I mentioned LinkedIn earlier as a networking opportunity. Basically, if you've never heard of it, it's a social network for business professionals. It's not a Facebook or an Instagram. It is very much for business purposes. It encompasses a digital version of your resume, so you upload it into your profile. It cultivates connections with individuals over shared interests and goals from a professional standpoint. And by and large, this is an amazing avenue to generate new opportunities in the employment sector. It allows you to stay up to date with market trends and industry information, especially if you're following companies on LinkedIn. Once you do that, any communications that those companies push out to the public will show up on your homepage in LinkedIn, so it keeps you informed. One of the biggest pieces I want to show about the facts are 94% of recruiters use LinkedIn to source and vet candidates. 79% of them are hiring people from it. But we don't have yet an incredibly high number of job seekers using LinkedIn. So if you fall into this category, you're going to be at an advantage. You want to use this system to build your brand in a professional networking site. So I want to mention, because it is so important, we do have a career guide, and it has pages dedicated to LinkedIn and how to build your profile properly following these different recommendations, and how to network with fellow alumni on LinkedIn, because alumni tend to want to pay it forward and help each other, whether it be current students and current alumni. So our career guide is at career.charlotte.edu. And at the top of the page, you'll see a button where you can press on to go to our career guide. We've been asked other ways to uncover the hidden market. So as we've stated earlier, 80% of jobs are found through networking. Well, 80% of available opportunities are not advertised. So you see the symmetry there. So where to look? For research purposes, you definitely can look at company websites, look at government agencies, attend career fairs on campus and off. Oops, sorry about that. And when you do these research pieces, the latest news about initiatives might grow and cultivate jobs. Your awareness about them will grow. On the government side, you could find local, state, and federal job opportunities. And when you go to career fairs, you'll be able to meet recruiters directly. So this could be a good way for you to build those pictures of what is that hidden market and who's actually hiring. They just aren't advertising it quite yet. Other tips. Volunteering is a great way to network and get personal referrals. I have seen people in the higher education sector, they'll have people come in and volunteer a couple of hours a week just to get a taste of what the office does, if it's something that interests them. But more importantly, you're putting yourself out there to meet new people and develop relationships. Also consider if you're a part of a professional association or you should join one in your industry. It can help you locate potential employers. You can also see job listings specific to your field of interest at the professional association's websites. So keep an eye open for those. Internships, co-ops, and service learning offer chances for internal promotion and good references, meaning that if you're already working there as an intern, you're developing and building relationships, showing off your work and job performance. It'd be a great way to get connections and be hired full-time upon graduation. Make sure while you're at UNC Charlotte, you're networking with professors, any coworkers if you were to work on campus or off campus, peers and friends. Tell everyone that you are seeking employment. The word needs to get out, and people tend to look out for each other and will help market you. Another thing is to consider getting involved. Student organizations provide a great opportunity to network and give you an edge, only because you're meeting with peers about certain topics, because the student organizations usually revolve around a topic or a purpose or a cause. If you're able to get involved in those things, you're going to be with like-minded people who probably have like-minded connections. Common mistakes made during the search. Just want to be aware. Some people give up quickly, or they're just not applying to enough places. Probably behind that, I'd say they're not networking enough. Some people will get a bad attitude during this process because they're frustrated, they feel vulnerable, and they don't like asking people for help. So a bad attitude can evolve. Sending out materials with mistakes or errors. Making sure, and while we said earlier to have your resume proofread so many times, only because if you send it out with a lot of mistakes or errors, it looks as if you didn't care enough to make sure it was on point. Some people in their job search think that one lead is enough, meaning one connection. You're going to need a plethora of connections to land where you need to land. So do keep that in mind. We also have seen people not taking interviews seriously, meaning they're not practicing beforehand. And it's so critical that those pieces are put together as well as your resume, because you have your brand that's on paper, but the other part of your brand is what you sell in the interview. So make sure that you're practicing, and the Career Center is happy to help you with practice. And some people think that they're only going to do one tiny little siloed type of job. Make sure that you keep your eyes and ears open for other roles that could be using a lot of the same skills. They just might not look identical to what you were thinking initially. Don't limit your search, and definitely go into this with a positive attitude. So, final reminders. Start early in your job search if you have a timeline, which most people do. They're looking at trying to get an internship within a certain year in school, or maybe based on a graduation date. Remember, a search can take 6 to 9 months. Be very active with this process. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So make sure you're actively working on your job search on a weekly basis. Make sure that your networking game is on point. You're getting involved where you need to, and use the variety of approaches that we have mentioned. And like I said earlier, staying positive is absolutely critical. You have to be really, number one, believing in yourself, knowing yourself, and being clear on what you want, and it will show. So the final message here is don't give up. The job search, again, can be frustrating, but remember, it can take quite a while. If you get so frustrated that you're just, you can't go much further with it, definitely make an appointment with your career coach. We're happy to help. So that's the end of the content for this presentation. We hope that you have learned all the learning objectives we had put in front of you at the beginning of the presentation. The hope is that you understand that, a job search process is not quick. It requires a lot of strategy, but most importantly, it requires you knowing yourself and what you want. If you would like to connect with us, which we hope that you do, we are beside the Atkins Library in 150 Atkins. We do business in person and certainly virtually. We also offer drop-ins. That's where you don't need an appointment. You can drop in and talk about some career development topics, Monday through Friday, 10 to 3 during the fall and spring semesters. And again, we offer business virtually and in person for your convenience. Our website is career.charlotte.edu, so absolutely use that website for all of the information you might need around how do I access the Career Center and how do I use this information. Thank you for joining us. We do hope you have a great day.